Ladies and gentlemen, breaking post-millennial. Arizona GOP chair tried to bribe Kari Lake to not run for Senate, leaked audio. He told Lake people were willing to put their money where their mouth is. I mean, the audio from this is absolutely nuts. He says things like very powerful people don't want you to run. Quote, there are very powerful people who want to keep you out, he told Lake in a conversation last March. Jeff DeWitt told her that the people were willing to put their money where their mouth is. This is about defeating Trump. And I think that's a bad thing for our country, she replied. These people are corrupt. It's about control. After Lake asked what the powerful people wanted from her, he said, they want you to stay out for 2 years. I'll tell you what I can offer you. DeWitt continued, saying that there were companies that could, quote, just put her on the payroll to keep her out of the Senate race in the state. When Lake pushed back against the idea, DeWitt asked, just say, is there a number at which? Lake cut in saying, I can be bought? That's what it's about. After insisting to Lake that she could have a bigger voice in politics and to take the offer of the bribe, Lake said that doing so would be immoral and she wouldn't be able to look at herself in the mirror the same. DeWitt insisted that Lake not tell anyone the conversation happened. Now, it's a 10-minute recording. I don't want to play everything, but I do want to play the end part where he fears assassination. But I also want to point out, in it, he mentions, you can be a big personality. You can be a big voice. It is about defeating Donald Trump. That's why they want her out for 2 years. They want Trump to lose. After that, then you can do whatever you want. Let me play the last portion of this, and you can hear it for yourself. This stuff's wild. And okay, let me refresh because X video always does that. And let's try again.
What's about DeSantis? Getting DeSantis in. Getting DeSantis is getting Trump in.
You're reading too deep into it.
Well, let's see what happens. Maybe my case will go through. Maybe they'll do the right thing.
I hope so.
I do too. That's my first goal. Yeah. But they can't have me in the governor's office because then we're going to root out some of this corruption.
But again, it's like...
You know what it is? The people don't get to choose their elected officials unless they're pre-approved by the swamp. And the swamp doesn't pre-approve of me.
You need a strong party to help.
I think you should go public with this and then say, hey,
no.
These people don't want to, they don't want,
they're... And I turn my key in my car and I just... I like my car.
Then I turn my key in my car and it goes... Very powerful people sent this man to bribe Kari Lake into dropping out because they want their pre-approved candidates to be put in place and they were going to pay her off so that she would stop trying. And this man says, if he goes public, they will kill him with a car bomb. Now, maybe he doesn't literally mean car bomb, but no. Then I turn my key in my car and I think the implication is very, very obvious. Who are these powerful people? Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you guys. We've been swatted several times. I know there are crazy people out there. People ask me if I'm ever concerned about my safety, and I always say I'm less concerned with Antifa than I am with the crazy man who thinks I broke into his house to steal all of his spoons. Crazy people see you and they say crazy things. I don't know anyone that I fear in the immediate would try to kill me. And I don't know if anyone else here or anyone's been on the show would in the immediate say someone will kill me if I do a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is a guy who's saying, if I take this action, they will kill me. He knows who they are. He knows the powerful people that have put him up to this. He knows them. Someone sent him there. And he thinks, if I cross them, they'll kill me. Who's he working with?
Well, it's crazy. You know, it's fascinating because we hear about, you know, the deep state, the swamp, all these things. We hear about these kind of conversations taking place in politics. And then here we are, we get a firsthand, you know, listen to this. And so it's one thing to hear about it. I think it's totally different when you actually listen to the video and you hear that. It kind of put it in a new context for me, and I'm sure many others out there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's only breeding more distrust in the system that's already there. And I think in some ways, the political theater has gotten so dramatic that people really equate it to what was that show that had Frank on it, and and like all these DC sort of not like dramedies
House
where
of
it's
Cards,
like House of Cards. Thank you. They think anything could happen, but then things like this come out and they say, oh,
That's all real.
It's all real.
Yeah.
And I think that's ultimately plays into sort of this elite group's power, right? They want you to be scared.
Well,
And nobody ever came here and offered me a bunch of money for any of this stuff. What's going on?
If this is what's going on, then we have a situation in American politics that is a real problem. This is what we see in Russia. We see this kind of thing in Ukraine. We see this kind of thing where people are just taken out. You never hear from them again in China. If we have a situation where we have political operatives operating behind the scenes to take people out if they do a misstep, then I think most Americans would not be prepared for that reality.
It sounds like Kari Lake recorded this because of the volume of her voice and the volume of Jeff's voice. I'm wondering why it is it took this long for it to get released.
You know, maybe she just now felt comfortable doing it. I don't know, but it's crazy too because this is Kari Lake. This isn't some no-name politician. So the fact that they felt comfortable enough to go to someone like Kari Lake and have that conversation, what are they doing to other people that's just coming in
Desperate
DC?
Enough.
Yeah, desperate enough. That's a good point.
That's why I was saying in the intro to the show tonight, Civil War. Oh, you better be careful because I'm gonna say that a lot tonight with what's going on. They're so panicked and desperate over what Kari Lake represents. She is America First. She is like Trump. And they're probably thinking, we nip this in the bud now. Because if she actually advances politically in this country, we are dealing with Trump once again. This time, I'll be completely honest, Kari Lake is a bit more, what's the right word? Orthodox? I mean,
She's a little more poised, maybe?
Poised is maybe the right word. Trump is a brash celebrity character, and they find ways to use that to make him look bad. But Kari Lake has decades of television experience, and she comes off like top tier, political, high level, like poised, I suppose is probably the best way to put it. That is something they will struggle with. Mm-hmm. If she is running for higher office, if she is succeeding, if she's in the Senate, they're not going to be able to stop her. Trump gives them some ammunition sometimes, and they're going as dirty as possible. Right now, we know what comes next for Kari Lake. Because in conspiracy world, it goes like this. The first thing they do is they ask you to play ball. Hey, we really like what you're doing. Why don't you come work with us? And then you say, no, I'm not interested. I don't like what you do. Then they offer you money. Okay. Hey, I got this really great opportunity. Why don't you take this job in this other place? When you refuse the money, the next step is the threats. The next thing that happens is maybe there's a car accident. A family member has an unfortunate turn, and we would hate for that to happen. In the conspiracy world, typically it goes with recruitment, failure, bribery, failure, threats of violence, and assassination. And we've talked about that book, was it Confessions of an Economic Hitman, where he talks about on the larger scale, basically you go to a country, you say, you are now part of our machine and our empire. And if they say no, then you offer them a bunch of money and say, hey, we'll give you all these things. They say no. Then you stage a coup and remove them from power and install someone who will do what you want them to do.
It's like that Monty Python sketch when they're like, that was a nice country you've got here. It'd be a shame something happened to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine with the release of this audio and the man being recorded saying, effectively, they will kill him. Kari Lake, man, she needs to she got to hire some security for her family.
Well, if they weren't scared of her before, I'm sure they are now. Because she says in the audio, like, you're going to have to kill me. You're not going to buy me. You're not going to pay me off. And so she stood up to this. And so I think if they weren't scared of her before, they probably definitely are now.
I fear they will. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, the sheer desperation we are seeing from the political elites in this country is not beyond any of that right now. Look, it is allegedly a conspiracy theory that Epstein killed himself. What I mean is the mainstream media purports that not a single real person in this country believes Epstein killed himself.
That interview with his brother was really pretty shocking.
The best line ever came from Chris Reagan, YouTube personality. After it happened, he said he got into an Uber, and the first thing that happens is the driver turns around and goes, yo, that guy didn't kill himself. Nobody believes it. Epstein himself and his story was a conspiracy theory. Now we know, now it's a fact. Ghislaine Maxwell's in jail, proven, and they still haven't released the client list. Now that we're starting to see beyond the curtain that these things are happening, now that we actually got leaked audio of someone trying to bribe Kari Lake, I will say right now, I'm just going to go ahead and assume all the rest of it's true. The funny thing is, people have been saying for some time, like 2 years now, conspiracy theory. What is Luke's got a shirt? Conspiracy theories are just spoiler alerts.
Right.
6
Right.
months.
It's true.
It happened with all of them, and it happened in such quick succession. You know, it was like getting whiplash. Everything that we were told was true was a complete lie. And now we see, you know, you'll see a lot of conversations bubbling up about the way that history has been taught. And we're suddenly realizing, oh, they taught us X, Y, and Z about our national history. And if you dig into it, it turns out those things weren't true either. I had a professor in grad school who went through, you know, a whole bunch of stuff. He was like a Cuban refugee as a child, and he was brought to Florida and all this stuff. And when things would happen and we'd talk about history, he'd be like, listen, that's not how it happened. That's not how it happened at all. And he'd start explaining what it looked like, you know, from his perspective, having lived through it. But we're seeing that all over the place. And it's just compounding. It's hard to have any idea where to put your foot that's going to be solid ground.
And I think it's changing forms too.
Yeah.
I mean, instead of it just being, oh, well, this is how I was taught this in high school. I mean, I remember being taught stuff and being like, this obvious has bias to it. But now it's also sort of these historically based miniseries that Netflix puts out. And they're actually slightly
Right.
inaccurate. But that's where a lot of people are learning kind of the gist of what happened, or they think the gist of what happened during various points of time. It ultimately becomes plausible deniability for anyone in the media who gets to be like, oh, well, we took some creative liberties here. But, you know, we don't have a strong enough and unbiased education system to say, here's what you need to know, and you can watch this and discern where they are taking sort of a political leap and where this is actually what happened.
The entire concept of deconstruction that started in philosophy has now just hit reality. And we're deconstructing everything every day.
Yeah.
Well, and to your point about everything kind of speeding up, I feel like they never expected President Trump to win in 2016. It kind of threw
Right.
a wrench in their globalist agenda and their
Remember
plan.
everybody crying the next day, like literally sobbing?
And since then, everything has kind of just been in overdrive and it's speeding everything up. And I really think the left has overplayed their hand with a lot of this, though. I mean, you know, back to, you know, the lockdowns and the mandates and all that. And what we saw from that were parents were at home listening to what was going on inside the classrooms and all these other things. And so I feel like they overplayed their hand. A lot of people have woken up to this. I mean, if you go back 7, 8 years, not even 10, I mean, 7, 8 years and tell everybody what took place over the last few years, they would say you're crazy. There's no way that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And here we are living in it.
Yeah. I mean, but you don't remember people crying, right? Because you're from West Virginia.
That's right.
Which had, I mean, there really are states and cities that had completely different experiences.
Yep.
Trump coming to office was something that a lot of people celebrated very intensely. But, you know, you were, in Brooklyn
I was
at the
in
time?
Brooklyn. I was actually, it was pretty crazy. My friends were sobbing. And I didn't vote for Trump, but I wasn't sobbing. I was like, oh, now we have a different president, and I'm going to support the president because I'm an American. That's what I do.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.